Welcome to Into the Unknown, Season 1, Episode 2. Coming up, John is the chairman of the Paranormal Board. What board, you ask? Well, we're going to find out. John, I'm throwing it your way.
Yes. Yes, you are.
Over to you.
Here I am.
We're leaning heavily on John.
Okay.
Because John dove deep into the algebra board.
No.
What is it?
The Ouija board.
Ouija board.
Ouija board.
It's
now,
spelled...
There are questions. Is it Ouija?
Right.
Or Ouija?
Which is why I
it's
mispronounced it. I was trying to...
They don't care as long as you buy it.
Who doesn't care?
Well,
who?
Ooh,
the spirits?
Now Hasbro. Hasbro,
Oh, okay.
Hasbro has all of the intellectual property rights to produce the Ouija board as a family board game. Family board game.
Right.
Hey,
your
kids,
ancestors from the past 500 years can play along.
Contact demons in your spare time.
I didn't know Uncle Roy was a demon.
This new game from Hasbro.
Speaking of demons,
yes.
How many can you contact with a Ouija board? So
all the demons.
All the demons.
All the demons.
Okay.
And the spirits.
And the
beyond. All right.
Spirits,
all right.
interdimensional beings. Could you contact them?
Sure. All of them.
Sasquatch?
Yeah, that's a real question. Like, who are you talking to through a Ouija board? But let's back up. Let's back up a little bit.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So the conceit for our podcast, what we thought we might bring to this niche of paranormal broadcasting was that we wanted to take a relatively local regional angle, things that we would have connection to.
Central Maryland.
Yeah, at least to start. And we've always I've been saying regional. We're going to build out from there.
Oh, we're going to
So the
build
thing
out.
is,
Oh, yes.
the Ouija board, and we'll talk about what it is for those few people who might not know.
It'd be nice.
In a second.
We want
the
to be
Ouija
welcoming.
board was invented in its current form, in its commercial form, in Maryland. And I was always told the inventor of the Ouija board was buried under a grave marker, a gravestone that is in fact a Ouija board. Oh, and that is true.
Wow,
to some degree.
Where?
And, very good. Where can I go see this? Absolutely.
I'm doing a good job of not having done any research.
No research whatsoever. Yeah, I, on the other hand, did all the research because that was the funny thing was I thought this was going to be a very straightforward, even short episode where, we say, all right, so the inventor was in Maryland and he's buried in Greenmount Cemetery in Baltimore, and his name's Elijah Bond, and this is the story of the Ouija board. But that, as I dug into this, it turned out that there were a lot more twists and turns to the story than I could ever have anticipated. And I listened to, I did a lot of internet research, did a lot of looking through my books, listened to some podcasts, and there are some podcasts that are like 3-4 hours long.
On this topic?
On just this topic. And they still didn't touch the ultimate thing that I found that was of interest to who invented the Ouija board.
So are you saying that you have exclusively on this
podcast
information that this community has...
No, I can't say that. I can't say that. We're still...
Right, fine, whatever. We'll keep going.
We're still in the third or fourth hand
we'll keep
secondary
going.
source research.
Since you did all the trouble of...
But it is kind of interesting that you can have a 3-4 hour podcast and they don't touch on something that I found even doing 3 works.
All right. You've gone deep. All right.
Okay. So
where are we going first?
Let's start with what is a Ouija board.
Okay.
Because it's possible somebody out there listening to a paranormal podcast has no clue what a Ouija board is. It is a very simple board game. It is sold in the toy stores. You can get one at Target in a box, commercial box. Like I said, from Hasbro these days. But we'll see how it started. And it is basically 2 pieces. It is a board, and the board is marked with the letters of the alphabet, the numbers 0 through 9, the words yes and no, and hello and goodbye. And then there's some other graphics, like there's a sun and there's a moon, and I think Ouija board is on is printed on the front.
And there's Victorian styling.
Yes, it's styled in a certain way. Yes. And that really hasn't changed much in the 100+ years of actually, it's probably up to like 130, 140 years now.
Because spiritualism, right?
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Touching upon all
right, we're going to get to that,
veins.
How it developed.
Okay, I'm so excited for this, really. Now that we're talking about it.
Yeah, the game uses what's called a planchette, which basically means little table.
Oh,
little table.
It's very French.
Yes, it's French. That sits on the board. People put their hands on the planchette. And then, without conscious movement, the planchette will sort of shift around the board, spelling out the answers to your questions. Or in the case of a yes/no, it'll move towards yes, or it'll move towards no. And then, of course, if you got a bunch of 12-year-olds sitting around a sleepover playing with this thing, everybody starts to devolve into, you're moving that thing. Yeah. But there is some evidence of a scientific thing called ideomotor movement, whereby we subconsciously will shift towards what our
preferred answer.
What a preferred answer might be. So if you've got a yes or no answer, or you're Johnny likes Lizzie. Okay, it's moving towards yes or no.
Yeah, and this is something everybody knows, but no one will say it.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
I'm going to put a pin in that.
Yeah, you should.
You know why? Because it's relevant to one of my stories.
Good. But I do want to state
around.
That yes, it is possible for the thing to move without a conscious motion of Johnny moving the planchette forcefully in one direction. So that's the board. There isn't much to it. And you brought up the spiritualist movement. So where did this come from? Yeah, let's.
Not an easy answer.
No, it is and it isn't. So the two pieces were used by the spiritualist movement independently. So we need to talk about what a spiritualist movement is. Spiritualism was a social religious movement that can be traced back to the 1840s in the United States, and part of a larger movement called the Second Great Awakening, which was a religious movement. People became more religious, organized religion experienced more people coming to the churches, those kinds of things. We'll leave it at that because that's a big social.
Let me ask you a quick question. Have you heard of the burned over district of New York? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe not. The
burned over district is, and we're familiar with the colonies and some of the state lines that go east to west, right? So there's a section of New York, that elongated section that goes, there is the section called the burned over district.
Okay.
And in the burned over district, and again, I don't want to derail you too much,
right.
but I think we ought to pin that and come back to it, because that was a epicenter of a lot of spiritualism, a lot of folks that have come out of that area.
Yeah. We get into some of that.
Boy, there's a lot of holes to run the
I wanted to gloss over spiritualism for a bit, but
a problem.
You're fine. That's why I said I wasn't sure, because we're going to get to how it started in a second. But let's talk about what they thought.
I'm just trying to contribute. In a good way.
Thank you.
In a good way. You're welcome. You're doing great.
Okay.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Thank you for the validation.
You're welcome.
Right.
You're welcome. You're
Thanks,
doing great.
buddy.
I'm looking at
this
all
is why we're
notes.
doing this show together, and you're not sitting here with somebody else.
That's right.
Okay. So spiritualism centers on the belief that human consciousness continues after death and may be contacted by the living. And this contact can be used for a variety of purposes, including healing, advice, and divination. Well, should Johnny marry Lizzie? I don't know. We'll find out.
Right. Not unlike like the shamans would do for their community. Right?
So
shamans, shamans in general, not the shaman.
So the first spiritualists, and I say first with quotes, the ones that are often identified as the first, were Kate and Margaret Fox, known as the Fox sisters, and they were of Hydesville, New York. So that's why when you said New York, I was like, well, wait, maybe we're talking about the same thing, and I suspect we are.
We are.
But I hadn't heard about the burned over
district.
Okay. Yep. And in a nutshell, if you again, to kind of really condense a lot into the minimum, This is the movement that gives rise to the popular conception of the darkroom seance. And we need to talk a little bit about that. So without getting deep into spiritualism, a few noteworthy points is that seances were a very popular form of entertainment, and they were conducted in the homes of people. They were
the parlor.
The parlor, yes,
Yeah,
which was
parlor games.
Yes, which was a.
It's where you entertain.
We would call it the living room now.
That's
but
right.
Do you know why they wouldn't have called it the living room and they had the name the parlor back in the day?
Because that's where they kept the dead.
That's where you held your funerals.
That's where the ice block was. And the old Uncle Roy was propped up on the ice block.
Yes, and that is an interesting point, is that the parlor was a public area of the house that was multi-purpose. So it would not be uncommon to have a seance with a paid medium come into your home, say, as the entertainment for after a dinner party.
Rip you off. Oh, well, that's what the skeptics would say.
Yeah. But it's interesting because that question of, is this real? Really wasn't important if you're coming at it from an entertainment perspective. That's all part of the fun. You know, it's funny you mentioned that because it's a perfect segue. You did not need to be a believer, in other words, to be participating in these darkroom seances. If you had if the medium did their job and you bought into it even for that evening, that was fun.
Good fun, because what else are you going to do, right?
Yeah. Now, the other interesting thing about spiritualism is, I said it started in the 1840s. And
shortly thereafter,
contributing to the longevity of spiritualism was, in fact, the Civil War. Because if your core belief of spiritualism and the practices surrounding it, which were becoming mainstreamed simply for entertainment, if the core belief is that the dead can be contacted, well, in the aftermath of the war, of course, people are desperate to contact their loved ones for a variety of reasons. Some of them simply because they want to have that one last conversation.
Where are you?
Yeah.
Like, not only where are you now, but where is your body?
Well, yeah. Where's the closure? What was the last thing you saw? Was somebody with you? I mean, people have very normal human questions.
Right.
And, you know, there's a lot that could be said. You said the mediums rip them off. Maybe.
That's an aspect. And I only introduce it because that's what we do.
But there's, yes, that's true. But there is also an aspect of giving that closure to the family in a way that they can't get in any other way. So there's a social purpose to all this, if nothing else.
I'm not judging.
Yeah. So the thing about spiritualism in general, which will feed into the Ouija board, is that there's an ebb and flow to human history that allows this to come back. So it comes back again after World War I and the influenza epidemic, and there's a huge revival in the 1920s, and that sort of culminates in the 30s with Harry Houdini running around and trying to
debunk, but also stop the ripping off of the charlatans out there taking advantage of people.
Right,
and that's one little. I'll pop that in.
But at the same time, the interesting thing about Houdini, of course, is that when he dies, he has left instructions with his wife.
I'm gonna
try to contact me,
right?
And if it's possible,
right?
And they held the Houdini seance on Halloween, which was the anniversary of his death. Coincidence, if you believe that sort of thing.
There are no coincidences.
Okay, they did hold the Houdini seance for decades afterwards, and unfortunately, well, that's a different episode probably, but there's conflicting evidence about whether or not Houdini actually gave the trigger word that indicated he had made contact.
You figured me out. Here I am.
That's a
Here's
different
the word.
Yeah, that's a different episode, and that's an interesting history too, because it's possible that the trigger word got out, the code.
Somebody figured it out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, what the genius of the Ouija board is, as we discover how it came to be, is that it now creates a do-it-yourself mode.
Right. Right. Well, you don't have to travel to Delphi anymore, right?
Right.
It is an oracle, right?
Well, that's what it's marketed as. Yes.
Is that in the marketing literature? And it's an oracle.
I think it says oracle somewhere in the instruction sheet. It did create the means for the average family or user to hold that seance without the need to hire or consult an actual commercial medium. Yet it also relied upon those accepted spiritualist practices from before. And in fact, it seems to be a thread back to what's called automatic writing. You familiar with that?
I am.
Contacting spirit guides, which is what the mediums were saying they could do. And there's also a submission to the process that it is going to work better the more you accept or buy into the belief system surrounding it. And so it's using all these tools that already exist in the spiritualist toolkit.
Right.
Okay. So automatic writing, just to explain, it's a process by which someone gives over themselves, picks up a writing implement, and will just let the pen or pencil dash over the page.
Copy down whatever comes through.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
As I understand it.
Yes.
And for my knowledge, well, I had shared with you the one episode of the show that we looked at for research, and Cindy Kazaa, I think, is an automatic writer that folks will be familiar with.
Okay.
Yeah.
But of course, one of the criticisms of that is somebody's picking up a pen and they're writing themselves.
Yeah.
So, for better or worse.
Well, what you're also getting into is channeling as well, and people lose their minds over that.
Right. But the Ouija board or the planchette, so the two pieces are different. The planchette used to be it existed separately from the Ouija board originally. And today it's got a little window, and it's sort of shaped like a heart with a pointer end. And you can use those to point and spell out the messages on the Ouija board. But originally, it actually had a pen in it. So you would lightly put your fingers on it, and it would you could do the automatic writing simply by shifting around the paper.
So you're getting an image, whether a letter
or a drawing or something.
Gotcha.
And it would be
Interesting.
a step removed from someone picking up the pen in their hand in normal writing fashion. So it was
But you could do that.
more acceptable.
One could do that.
Yeah.
So wait, I'm sorry. More acceptable
To a skeptic, it's taking a step removed, because I'm not just holding it like I normally would. Now the planchette is
there's an interface.
Go-between.
There's a go-between.
Right.
Gotcha.
Between me and the writing implement and whatever. And it would be harder in theory for me to legibly write something with the planchette consciously. Right. So that's what's going on.
But the planchette also offers, and you've probably made it clear, but there's 2 or 3 folks leaning their fingers on the planchette, right?
On the Ouija board version,
right.
Yes, but not necessarily on the original separate planchette use.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes,
okay.
It could be. It could be 2 or 3, but
because that was the idea,
right.
was that you had at least 2 people on it. Therefore, it
right.
You've got a skeptic and a believer, and
right.
they're using the board.
Yeah,
I'm going to detect if it's getting moved in a way that sounds. You're moving it.
That's the planchette with the Ouija.
Right, gotcha.
Okay, so to be clear, the planchette in its separate form would be the planchette, a writing implement inserted into it, and a piece of paper.
Yep.
Okay. Then there's the separate piece of the talking board, or a witch board, they called them. That existed separately, and it's much the same thing. Like somewhere on the board, the letters, the yes, nos, those kinds of things were on there. Not necessarily all at once, because lots of different versions of them existed. Okay. And you could use various means to get your message across, but not the planchette. The closest thing to the planchette might be a pendulum. You would suspend a weight into the center of the board and then just let it swing. There is some thinking that ideomotor movement that I described earlier would also exist. In that the way you held it and the unconscious motion of your arm holding it over the board would move towards the answers that were preferred or true, however you want to think about it.
Right.
But there are lots of ways to use the talking board when the 2 were separate.
Gotcha.
Okay. Here's where it gets interesting. Before we bring in our cast of characters. Okay. There is some evidence that the planchette and the talking board were brought together as early as the 1850s.
Okay.
And the Ouija board and our cast of characters who are going to come in wasn't patented, and we'll use that specific intellectual property term, until 1890.
Okay.
And those are the people who are credited with creating a new invention. But there's some evidence that, in fact, they didn't.
Okay.
These things were brought together
in a court of law
earlier.
You are a lawyer.
That is where it gets interesting. Yes. Yeah. Especially where we get to the point where I say, oh, by the way, the original patent application was disapproved. But there's a better story. So
is this a law story? A law paranormal story?
It is and it isn't. This was why I was fascinated by the story. Was this every time I thought I had it,
right,
and I had my grip on it, it slipped through my fingers and some other piece came up, and I was like, no, that's interesting.
That's
okay.
That is the paranormal playing.
Yeah. So that's the technology, the spiritual technology we're talking about. We've got the planchette, the talking board. They're separate. They're spiritualism. That's the theory underpinning this. We're talking to something on the other side. The spiritualist would say, yes, that's the spirits of your dead relatives, your ancestors.
They're coming through.
They're coming through. That's how you're contacting them. That was their shtick. Are there questions? Do you have a question at this point about any of that stuff? Before we get into
I thought you were talking to the board.
No, sorry. No, I'm talking to you.
I wish we had one.
I know. I'm kind of upset. I'm kind of upset.
I don't have any questions. I think you've cleared it up.
Okay.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Let's introduce our cast of characters.
High tech.
Or just the first couple that are worthwhile.
So like I said, we're at a party.
Yes. So like I said, originally I had this kernel of the idea, which was, hey, the inventor of the Ouija board is from Maryland. He's buried in Greenmount Cemetery.
Perfect.
Oh, he's buried under the headstone that looks like the Ouija board. I said, okay. That's good. I'm going to go look him up. His name's Elijah Bond, and he is a lawyer.
Elijah Bond. He's a lawyer. Of course he is.
Turns out
he should have known better.
Turns out he did not invent this thing.
Okay, so who says he did? Wikipedia?
Yes. Okay. Wikipedia.
Well,
there are a number of different sources. So even he would probably say, "I didn't invent this thing. I'm a key piece in getting it forward into the public consciousness."
What's his time historical context?
Okay, so Elijah Bond's an interesting character. So he's born in the 1840s.
Okay.
Also,
this is we're starting at
square
one.
There's some interesting. Who these people are also is probably going to be of interest if you believe things connect.
Yeah.
And it's all connected, and there's a paranormal unified field theory. So he's born in
there you go again.
1847. He fought in the Civil War.
Okay.
On the losing side.
Oh.
Okay. In fact, to tell you the truth, it sounds like all of these people were Confederates. Or Confederate sympathizers. Yes. Okay.
Interesting.
Well, it gets weirder.
Interesting. Wow.
Okay. So he fought as an officer in the Confederate Army during the Civil War.
All right.
Wow. He went to law school. It seems, although I wasn't able to confirm this, but it seems after the war, at the University of Maryland School of Law, still in business today.
Really?
Not my alma mater.
I know that.
They were the other school.
The other school.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other
school.
Okay. Elijah Bond becomes important to the story because he's key to the two most interesting stories about the birth of the Ouija board proper. And I think I want to start by telling those two stories. And we'll introduce the second character, which is his sister-in-law, Helen Peters. Or as she's remembered to history because she got married, Helen Peters Nosworthy.
That's my brother's mother-in-law.
Okay.
God rest her soul.
So the board is actually created in the mid-1880s by a guy named Charles Kennard, but he needs...
As we know it.
As we know it.
Okay.
And we'll get to what his piece of making it the thing it is we know today in a second. But he needs to find investors. We'll talk about that again in a second, but Elijah Bond is one of them. Bond's sister-in-law, Helen, is a medium.
Okay.
And the investors all come together, including Helen. She also invests. And they say, well, now that we've got this device, or two devices, however you want to think about it, this system of devices, we should know what it's named. Do we name it? There was some argument about this.
Let's ask the board.
Let's ask the board. Exactly.
Oh my goodness, really? Is that what they did? What a great
ask
idea.
The board. So Helen takes center stage on this. I'm sure she was not the only hand on the planchette, but she's doing the channeling. And they ask the board, what is your name? And it spells out O-U-I-J-A. Ouija. And the investors all look at each other. And they, of course, say, what the hell does that mean?
I was going to say, you know what came to my mind? There's an I in there. I spelled it wrong. Let me correct my spelling live on the air.
We'll get to that too. But that's Helen's story. That's Helen. That's a later.
You need to take the I out of the board.
That's a later version of Helen's story. Sorry. Okay, but we're telling.
I have too many.
Look, when you got
too many responses here, I need to pull it back. Sorry.
When legend becomes fact, print the legend. So we're going to tell the story as they told it.
Okay.
Which was the board named itself. So they asked the board the question, what does Ouija mean?
Oh,
and
good follow-up.
The planchette spells out GOODLUCK. Good luck. Oh. So the question really is, does Ouija mean good luck? Or was the board saying, good luck finding out what that means?
Good luck. That's a good question.
Who knows?
Well, they didn't ask that question. We didn't have Google in those days.
That's true. And they didn't ask that question. That would have been a third follow-up question. Right. But they didn't ask
what language?
They settled on that. Now, of course...
Could be Sumerian.
There are people who will point out that we and Ya, J-A, are both yes, one in French, one in German. And they think that's where the name was put together. But then board named itself. Let's just leave it at that. Good story for the moment.
Well, so I'll throw something in. What spirit did they call forward? Strictly the board, or did they have an intermediary spirit, which is what you're supposed to do?
They did not ask. They did not ask. So the spirit guide goes nameless.
They don't know what they were doing.
Okay.
Maybe.
Here's the next good story.
Okay.
So Elijah Bond is an intellectual property attorney. He's specifically a patent attorney. The reason that the investors contacted him was that they thought they wanted a patent for this new device. So there's some interesting things about patents. Okay. He applies for a patent, and it's denied.
Okay. And this is the patent office of the
United States of America.
Well, right, late 1800s, the 1880s.
Yes. So the patent office operates
out of... Was Einstein working there?
No, that's
that later?
It's a different story.
Okay,
different story. The patent office operates out of the Library of Congress, or at least it did back then. I think it still does. I'm looking through my notes to try to find the names involved here. But Bond and his sister-in-law, Helen, go down to the patent office in D.C., the central patent office, and they walk in and they have the board with them, and they meet with the chief patent officer, and he says, look, I will give you a patent, but the board has to prove itself to me. Now, let me back up. like I said, there are certain things that go with patents. One, you have to prove that your invention is novel. That nobody has done it before, which brings us back to the case that I said back in the 1840s. There seemed to have been a previous marriage of planchette and board together. So you could deny if that was recognized at the time, even if that wasn't patented then, the patent office could say this is not a new invention, therefore it is
Anybody can build this.
There's
no, it's not protected. Okay.
Which brings us to the second potential reason that the patent was denied, which is that in order to be patented, you also have to show that your invention has utility.
Okay.
That it does something worthwhile.
Sure.
Now that's sometimes interpreted. This is where the law comes into play here, and a good for any intellectual property attorneys out there listening, and I'm sure we've got dozens.
At least one.
Well, no. I mean, the intellectual property attorneys are very specialized. So they may come back and say, John doesn't know what the heck he's talking about because this is not I don't practice. This is not my practice at all. I took the course.
You're what we have.
I took exactly.
I am
all we've got. Yeah. And I did take the course back in 96-7's time frame. So the invention showing utility is sometimes interpreted to mean it works.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not exactly true.
It's novel and it works as described, right? But you can't have a product.
So the story hinges on that fact that Helen pulls out the board, puts it in front of the chief patent officer, and she's willing to show him that it works. So he says, good.
Now, question, right? They're in this office and I know we don't have a transcription of the discussion, but is it presented to him as a spirit board? Through this, you can contact your dead Uncle Roy.
It's
learn things from him.
The patent, as I remember,
was on his
briefly seeing it go by, and I probably should have spent more time on this because I didn't realize you were going to ask this question. But I believe the patent does say that it is a device to speak to the spirit world. Or something along those lines. And maybe we'll go back and dig that up someday. Or maybe one of those dozens of really earnest
someone will tell us.
patent attorneys out there. We'll pull it up for us and get it because I don't have the patent number here.
Are we leading up to holy cow?
So the patent officer says, I want the board to spell my name correctly. And this hinges, of course, on the assumption to the story that we have not. I've never seen anyone really question that nobody in the room knew what his name was. Nobody saw the spelling of it, and that it isn't printed on the door that they just walked through.
But he did say spell it correctly, which means
so. Of course,
these jokers, since I landed from Europe, have been misspelling it. How do you really spell it?
Right. So, as you'd guess, the climax of the story is Helen puts her hands on the planchette and it correctly spells the chief patent officer's name.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay.
So what I did do, because now I'm really curious, was this really difficult? Now, bear in mind, Elijah Bond is an intellectual property attorney who specializes in patents. So is it possible that he knew who the chief patent officer's name was?
Well.
Okay, so I went back and I looked, and in 1890, depending on terms and whatnot, the chief patent officer was either Charles Eliot Mitchell. Eliot doesn't sound too bad, but Eliot is spelled Elliott.
Okay.
So there is a potential there to misspell.
One
because
L, two L.
Right.
One
L, two L's, one T, two T's, who knows? Or it was William Simonds, Simonds, who looks like he took over in 1891.
Okay.
But those
I spell my Simons with two M's, but that's fine.
Well,
whatever.
It could be Simons without a D. I mean, it could be anything. I'm just saying that these aren't uncommon names. There's some room there to misspell, and it's one or the other. So those are the two stories. Apparently this blew the chief patent officer's mind.
Okay, so he was impressed by what came out of the board.
He gave them a patent for this thing.
All right.
So what a patent does, and it's still kind of weird to me that they went for a patent, is that it gives permission to the patent holder to produce the device basically as a monopoly. or they can license out, but but anybody who wants to produce the device has to go through them. Okay. For a term of I think 20 years.
Right.
Again, if there's an IP attorney out there, they can correct me. But typically it's about 20 years. I'm not sure why they didn't copyright the board. I suspect that Hasbro today has all the intellectual property protections they can on this thing. They hold a trademark on the name Ouija, all that stuff. But back then they went for the patent, and I guess that sounded most impressive. Okay. So those are the two stories. The board has named itself, and it proved it worked. That's the takeaway from that story, is that we proved to the United States government that it worked. All right. And we've got our two characters, Elijah Bond and Helen Peters. Helen Peters Nosworthy, who's like I said, a medium. So she was also a Confederate sympathizer, as an aside.
My goodness.
Okay. Let's I sort of briefly mentioned him, but let's introduce our third character, Charles Kennard.
Oh my.
Kennard. So Charles Kennard is working in Chestertown, Maryland, in the late 1880s as a fertilizer salesman.
Okay.
This is what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's got
lots of farmland out there.
He's a bit of an inventor. He's got his own special blend of fertilizer, but he's
his own brand of bullshit. Is it?
Wow. See, that's hilarious. See, all these, and some would say that about the lawyers too. Okay.
I'm intuiting my way through this. I'm just sensing it. So, you're laying it down, and I'm picking it up. He's
saying,
brother,
it's great. It's great. It's great. So he's in Chestertown in the mid 1880s, selling his fertilizer, and as a bit of an inventor and apparently something of a spiritualist himself.
Okay,
it's his bright idea to bring together, probably independently. He probably does not know about the previous iteration, so he probably does on his own bring together the planchette and the talking board. And he says, "This is great. I can market this because who doesn't want to be able to contact the dead in the privacy of their own home without having to go through some spiritualist medium?" All right,
I totally agree.
This is brilliant.
It sells itself,
but he needs some investment. So he goes down. You're gonna love it. To his Freemasonry lodge.
Of course he does.
Of course he does.
Of course he does. There's the connected men,
and that's how he hooks up with Elijah Bond.
Oh, okay. So these two connect through the board?
No. Huh? Well, sort of. I mean, the board, who's to say the board isn't bringing them together?
They've developed the board in separate vacuums, and then
Kennard is the real inventor, but he meets Bond because Bond is also working as an attorney in Chestertown at that point.
Okay.
And that's how they meet. And Bond's an investor. Bond's also a Freemason. There are a bunch of other Freemasons involved in this. They bring together the money to be able to produce the board.
Okay.
They get their patent in 1890, and they start their business. Things are going great for a while. Bond is the patent holder, but he assigns the patent back to the Kennard Novelty Company as it starts, and they are the first official producers of the Ouija board as a commercial board game, and they sell like hotcakes. So here's where things get a little boring as the turn of the century comes around. So we're going to gloss over this, but there is a point to it. As with most American businesses at that point in time, there's some intrigue among the investors. They start pushing people out. Bond goes back to Baltimore and becomes an attorney there. Sort of forgets about the Ouija board more or less for a while, at least for a little while, because we're going to come back to him in a somewhat unfortunate incident.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Well, it is Baltimore.
Yeah. Kennard is doing his thing as head of the company for a while, but the investors start to say, we think we could do better. And they actually push Kennard out, and in his place, they hire on the shop foreman. His name is Fold, F-U-L-D. There's another Fold brother that works in the company at the same time. He becomes important in the management as well. So if you turn over a vintage Ouija board, and I think even to this day, because I think there's sort of a thing about keeping the board looking exactly as it does, out of some kind of tradition or superstition, depending on your point of view. If you turn over the board, you'll find printed on the back something that says Fold Brothers.
Okay.
So that's where Fold comes in. Fold, F-U-L-D. Fold runs the business for a while, and there's more business and legal intrigue. So in the 1920s, I mentioned that before, being another revival period.
Right.
So during that revival period, somebody gets curious and writes the Baltimore Sun a letter to the editor and says, "What's the history of the Ouija board?"
Okay.
Which they print because, as we have said in previous episodes, the newspaper men love stories that they're going to generate more story in some way, shape, or form, and they knew this would. And it turns out that there's some legal action going on at that point among the remaining investors, and they all want to take some credit. So they write letters back in about their involvement with and knowledge of the history of the Ouija board. And that's how we have any of this. If it wasn't in those letters in the Baltimore Sun, then a lot of this would have been lost. We wouldn't know who the different players are or what's going on. Interestingly enough, and keep in mind, these are people who want to say, I was involved in key to the creation of the Ouija board. None of them dispute the two central stories about the board naming itself or the board working in the presence of the chief patent officer. Okay. Now,
so those show up.
Those show up
in the narratives that are put forward as two parts, or these are parts that no one pushes back on.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
The most remarkable thing about the board is not denied. Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
And now again, they want to they all have an interest in saying this thing works because they wanted to continue to sell.
Right.
Okay.
Mortgages.
So
mortgages, bills.
We'll come back to the legal action in the 1920s.
Sure.
In a bit.
Sure.
I want to go back to Bond because he passes away in roughly this time period. He dies in 1921.
Okay.
And that's when he gets buried in Greenmount Cemetery. At some point, he decides, I kind of liked the income from the Ouija board, and I've given it all up. So he goes out and he forms his own novelty company to produce a competing board. The board is named Nirvana. Now, that's not the interesting part.
I'll wait for it.
What do you think this former Confederate officer, unfortunately and quite serendipitously, given the fact that the worst is yet to come, what do you think he named his novelty company?
I
have no idea.
I really don't have.
Yeah, the look
idea.
on your face is precious.
Well,
what could it possibly be?
Nirvana is
the Nirvana board. The Nirvana board. Okay.
It's not the Cobain company.
No.
Okay, all right.
No, that's a good guess. That's a good guess. No, former Confederate officer in the early 1900s names his novelty company the Swastika Novelty Company. Now.
Sure to be a success.
Sure to be a success. Of course.
Does it come with the logo?
Wait.
All right.
Well, all right. We should back up. That's only ironic in retrospect because
it is
the 1940s haven't happened yet. He has no idea where it's going. And
did it feed anything?
Right. But when you're looking for mystical connections here, time really isn't.
To be honest, right? The swastika and the symbol had lives of its own for thousands of years.
Yes.
And before the Nazis picked it up and defiled it.
And it typically means good luck.
Right.
Yes.
Right. It's got that's why everybody's so angry about it.
Right. And
more than angry.
My wife's best friend is from India, where the symbol
it's all over the place.
Originated and has its own cultural context, and she's very upset that she cannot use it here in the States for any purpose because it's just been so thoroughly corrupted, which it was not when
unless society reclaims it somehow.
I don't know how you can do that now.
Oh, well.
But, you know.
Never say never. It's a lot of effort. But you'll just,
yeah. It's just, it is kind of...
Reclaiming.
It is kind of like, wow, that's unfortunate. Okay, so that's sort of the end of the Bond's, not quite the end, but it's most of the end of Bond's involvement, engagement with all this. Okay. So I thought I had a handle on this story at this point.
It sounds tight as a drum.
Right. And then
what happened?
I picked up a book on Kent County, where Chestertown is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm flipping through, trying to see if it's got any tidbits. And God, it sure did. Okay. The book points out that, I wonder if I've got the researcher's name somewhere in my notes, but it points out that there's a fourth name that may be heavily involved in the development of the Ouija board as we know it.
Mm-hmm.
E.C. Reich.
Okay.
Reiche. Yeah, I know. It's all connected.
Yikes.
Okay. And in fact, he is...
Is it spelled R-E-I-C-H? E.
At the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Reiki. I think it's right. I think it's right. I think it's right. And he is, in fact, a Prussian immigrant.
Yikes. Well, okay. Interesting.
Okay.
Wow.
So how does he come into the story? Because the name leaps off the page, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
The two languages, French and German.
And what's left to do? Oh, we'll get back to that.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
No. I'm just thinking this is like how did this guy pop up? Okay. So turns out Reich, Prussian immigrant, works in the same building as Kennard. His job in 1880s Chestertown is a cabinet maker.
Kennard.
No. Right.
Right.
Kennard is selling fertilizer.
That's right. He's
the bullshit salesman.
That's right. I apologize.
Right.
I was stuck. You know what threw me off? Kennard is French for duck, isn't it? Kennard isn't that?
Different spelling, but I believe you're right.
Okay, sorry.
I don't speak
I don't
French.
know why. Is that relevant?
No.
It is, because Ouija.
Okay.
Ouija.
Okay.
Ouija.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
Hey, I'm just putting the pieces together.
Reich's a cabinet maker.
Okay.
So, if they're in the same building, I could see Kennard saying, hey, I have this great idea for a board. Wandering down the hall, literally down the hall.
Right.
They're apparently on the same floor.
I
need X, and you have wood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
You can plane it thin and smooth.
Right.
And,
right. And, that would explain a lot. Now, here's the other, again, curious thing, given how, all the mystical connections. What else do you think an 1880s cabinet maker gets involved in?
Making coffins.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's also the town undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
Nail on the head. Guessed in one. Very good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
he's the town undertaker.
Might have been the subject matter.
So,
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Coffee tables?
So apparently he comes in.
Coffins.
He comes into play because in all of the legal wrangling that's going on in the 20s-ish time frame, the Fold brothers are suing each other.
Of course.
In New York.
Yeah.
And Reich he tries to insert himself into that lawsuit saying, well, wait a minute. I also have a claim on the origin of the Ouija board, and I've never been recognized, and I should be given. Now, apparently the disposition is he gets nothing. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't have all the legal rigmarole about how that happened.
Yeah.
But he does pop into the story here, and he does seem to have a role. And there are some researchers that have found, and I should have their names handy too, and we'll do that in the future better.
It's
but
quite all right.
They seem to be indicating that he was involved in the fabrication of the prototyping boards. Okay. So those are our four main characters.
Yeah.
Elijah Bond, the guy who patents the board, the lawyer who patents the board for the thing. his sister-in-law, Helen, who is able to use her gifts of mediumship to use the board to name itself and to convince the patent office. There's Kennard, who appears to have had the brilliant independent idea to bring all these pieces together and say, hey, this would be a good thing to do so that the spiritualist business can continue in a do-it-yourself manner.
Right.
And then there's Reich, who seems to have helped Kennard put together the prototype of the board. Those are our 4 characters. And that's where I left off. Now, I'm curious to find out if, somebody else doesn't pop into the picture. There were certainly other investors, although they all seem to be money men.
Yeah.
The Fold brothers that were involved in the case seem to have just been the managers for the production. Just to bring the business end of that story, the Fold brothers owned the intellectual property rights to the board into 1966. They sold them to Parker Brothers. Parker Brothers eventually sold to Hasbro, and
that's where
we stand today.
That's where we stand today.
And that's the line, in case people are curious. Well, how did Hasbro get it?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And all those things are interconnected. Like the business maneuverings are not separate from who did what and how we know who did what and how it gets to where we are today.
Interesting.
So that's the origin story of the Ouija board.
Wow.
How about that?
That's interesting. It does have some twists and turns in it. And it's
more than I thought.
Centers around the one key part of the board itself.
Yeah.
Is the naming of itself. And
well, let's go back to that real quick.
Okay.
And the other thing that I would point out that makes it a local story is that the board was produced by the Fold brothers, because eventually the Kennard Novelty Company changed to a Fold brothers name, in Baltimore for decades.
Interesting.
All through the early to mid 20th century, up until when they sold to Parker Brothers. That's
interesting.
Baltimore's claim to fame.
So in your research, did you run across anything that says this is sort of the community's acceptance of it? I mean, I've got it sold like hotcakes. So this is a product that's embraced.
Yes,
but not by everybody.
No, although there are
even today you can find folks that are terrified by it.
Yes.
And I think for good reason.
We can talk about that.
Yeah.
So I didn't really find that, although there were a couple of references, and I failed to write down the years. There are a couple of times where it outsells Monopoly, which is the perennial best-selling board game in America, year after year after year.
Yeah.
And it's only like 1 or 2 years, but it's always in that same category. So while there are people who claim to be terrified of it, it sells.
It's getting purchased.
Still sells. Yeah,
which,
somebody's buying it.
Which suggests to me an underground for it. I mean, obviously, you don't see it on coffee tables.
No.
You're not running into it. Oh, you see your Ouija board. You keep that on the coffee table close at hand.
No.
But yet it's purchased. Well, so, it certainly was, it was a mainstay growing up. And I don't think that was because it was local. I think wherever you were in the United States, it was there, right? Unless it had restrictions in marketing or
so I'm sensing you want to shift to that piece, but I'm
heading in that direction.
Yeah, let me tell the story about
set it up and wet the whistle. But what do you got?
Yeah, let me tell the story about the name, and then we can shift to that.
That's fine,
because that's the last dangling thread that I left.
Sure.
Okay, so Ouija is. Where do I go back? We may have to edit this piece because I think.
Yeah, that's okay.
Let me circle back to Helen Peters, Noseworthy. So when she's in the seance that names the board, the story goes that she was wearing a locket. The locket was a gift from a friend, and inside was a portrait, not of the friend, although that was common at the time, but of her favorite author.
Okay.
A British author with, I think it's a pen name. It's because it's one of those, it's like Madonna, Prince.
Okay.
The name was Ouija. Ouija, with a D instead of the J.
Okay.
And it was, the name Ouija was actually inscribed on the picture, but it's script. So the claim is that it looked like Ouija.
Okay. And so is the presumption that someone sitting across from her
Who knows?
is fishing for a name and moved the planchette into
Ouija
position.
as a term had zero meaning prior to this moment. Mm-hmm. That's why they all asked the question, what the heck does that mean?
What are we talking about? Well, as a name, Ouija is not exactly tripping over that all over the place.
No, we're not now, for sure, but it was apparently Ouija was a big author at the time.
Right.
I think it was a woman, but I failed to look that up. Another, because I got distracted by all this other stuff.
We'll put it in the show notes.
I got distracted by the Freemasons.
Along with everything else.
The Freemasons, the Undertakers, the Confederates, I think so Chestertown was a hotbed of the Confederacy.
Maryland was a border state. So there's a lot of,
but the theory goes that naming the board Ouija after her favorite author would have been a bit too on the nose and maybe a little too obvious, and people would have immediately made this connection so they changed it up a little bit. So, but of course, like I said, nobody disputes the story about the seance.
That it was spelled out. Well, yeah, I mean, there's no reason to not. It happened. The people were asking the question. The hands were on the planchette. The board was there. Out popped these letters, 5 of them. Right. Yeah. And if your goal is to sell it, why would you throw water on the hot story of how it was named? Right. Interesting. Yeah. And so it's moved. It's moved into the common culture as the oracle. Contact spirits. So here's what I know about the Ouija board. In growing up, of course, along with all the other interesting stories that get traded around, and we'll name some like Bloody Mary and Black Aggie.
Oh, names we should come back to sometime.
Oh, you think? Yeah. You think
we should leave that trail?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay.
I think you're right. Yeah. Right. Growing up, right? These were the scary stories you told. Light as a Feather. Do you remember Light as a Feather?
Yes.
That's another one, right? Probably something we should look into. I forgot about that. There was a couple other notes that I took of things. But, of course, the Ouija board was part of it. And you could go to Toys R Us, grab one, and come home with it. But there was always somebody that had one. Mm-hmm. So the one experience I'll impart is a time when I want to say I was 13 or 14, not much older. I don't think I was driving. And that's only just to say that it gives you a sense of my mentality. Like not a child, but not quite full-fledged teen. So in that area, right? A group of friends were playing with the Ouija board. We ended up, because we moved through a couple locations. I think this was over a couple of days. So we were seasoned at it for a couple of days, right? So we had contacted a spirit through it called Pat.
Pat.
Yeah.
Good, solid name.
Well, it's a fantastic name. Like you pointed out previously, if I recall, right?
It's like no Captain Howdy.
But
we'll get to that.
I won't. Yeah. Captain, I could never raise him. We asked.
Did you? Okay.
We got
circle
Pat.
Back to that.
We got Pat. Nice nondescript. Are you a man? Are you a woman? Nope, I'm Pat.
I'm filling in for Captain Howdy, and that's all you need to know,
all
damn
you
it.
need to know. What do you want? What do you want? So we have Pat on the line, right? And so we've moved in. There's our friend. I'll just call him Dave. Right. Dave. We're at Dave's house, and we were in the basement. So we were playing and talking to Pat and getting answers and just giggling. It was so remarkable. I can't really remember what we were asking and talking about until Dave's father comes down the stairs and he goes, "Is that a Ouija board? What are you guys doing with that?" And we're just playing with it, right? And he says, "That's BS, right?" And he said, "Well, we've been getting some interesting things from it, right? We were just willing to tell him that we were impressed by this thing." Mm-hmm. And he says, "Okay, fine. Answer me this. Ask your spirit friend this. When I was in Vietnam, I had a friend named so-and-so. How many children did so-and-so have?" Okay? Pretty good question.
It's a good question.
It's a good question. Only he's going to know that answer.
Yep.
I happened to be on the board. I don't remember who I was on with. It was one other person. And I'll tell you right now, up front, I was moving it. Okay?
Okay.
So I was moving it.
Okay.
And I'll point back to what we started with, right? Did you call it the psychomotor movement or
ideomotor movement?
Ideomotor movement, right?
Yeah. But you may be getting into what the spiritualists
which is where
channeling.
one would go, right?
Yeah.
Like, he was consciously moving it because he was channeling the information.
Right.
I was the conduit for the information. Okay?
Yeah,
but I'm telling you, I moved it.
Right.
Because what popped into my head was 0.
Not an obvious answer.
0.
If you're asked how many were there,
and
you
I turned
assume...
to him and I said, "Hey, Dave's father, your friend didn't have any kids." And that's where I left it. He said, "Take that board and all of you get out." So that was my chilling story. And I can tell you that I was a little floored because it seemed like it's a trick question. He's asking us a trick question. And I was like, the answer is 0. He didn't have any kids.
Now, before you guys left, did you remember to say goodbye? Because that is the thing.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You always got to hang up with them.
Yes.
You don't
want anything lingering.
That's
after a
right.
session.
You never leave the door open.
Yeah.
We had pretty good cleanliness when it came to it. And I say that in a way that sounds like I'm on that thing every other day. No. But we knew enough. And again, I can only explain to you that we knew enough to operate it in a safe manner. The other story is I was not a witness. This was a dear friend of mine over the years had been playing with it. I say playing with it because after all, it's a Hasbro game.
It's a Hasbro game.
So pop it out of that box and play with it. Call in some spirits, see what you get.
Yep.
Right. Dinner time. Oh man, we left the portal open.
Wander into Walmart and just bring home
who's coming through
a whole host of spirits.
So that's part of the fear, right? Is that you open the door, you don't know who you're talking to. The idea is you're supposed to vet this, and I am repeating what I have heard and learned through lore. Yeah, not through any mostly direct knowledge. Using it a couple of times, we were very safe, and we didn't. We didn't push it.
Where does this lore come from? And because you started to get to that, and I did some light research.
Real quick, I'll wrap up the story by saying the friend was playing. I'm air quoting here, playing with the board. What she said, she was not on the board, if I recall, but she said that what happened was the lights went out. And they started noticing that, the light of the night sky is darker than the darkness. And they started seeing shadow figures moving around the outside of the house. Oh, okay. And so she knew enough to say, well, that's not good.
Goodbye.
Coincidentally, this particular person went on to have experiences with shadow people and what she would call attachments.
Oh, interesting.
So you can draw those conclusions however you wish. So and again, where do these ideas come from? Yeah. What's the lore? Is just built up? Concretes through time by, we'll never leave that door open again. Or I invited something in and it stayed for days and I couldn't get rid of it.
Yeah. So let's start that piece of the discussion by bringing up the other big Maryland connection to Ouija boards. Mm-hmm. The Exorcist. Oh. Okay. So in the
Georgetown,
in the movie and the book, the possessed child, Regan, begins her flirtation with the occult by getting a hold of a Ouija board and contacting the aforementioned Captain Howdy, who is actually a mask for Pazuzu, the demon in the story.
That reference went over my head. I'd forgotten all about that from The Exorcist.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
I have a plan.
That's right. Get all the legal stuff out of the way and then dive into the good stuff.
I have a plan. Okay. So that The Exorcist in both book and movie form, and I gotta be honest, I don't think I've ever seen the movie all the way through, but I have read the book.
For Any reason why?
No, I just never.
You just never. Okay.
Just never saw
never
it.
put it all
It's not that I
together.
haven't seen it or seen parts of it or seen significant portions.
It's not out of fear.
I've never
out of discomfort.
No, I never just sat down and watched the movie from beginning to end. But I have read the book, and I found the book
well, I'm sure
fascinating.
The books are always better.
The book was amazing, and I really recommend it.
Okay.
As a story that delves into those ideas about, existential evil, not just the evil you or I might be able to perpetrate as a human being, but that idea of evil as a concept.
It's the idea of we could perpetrate some nasty things, but it's the underpinning. It's almost an archetypical evil.
Right.
That's sort of the fabric of the universe kind of evil.
Right. What brings up the wrongness in creation in some ways? That dark. Yeah.
Well, and some would argue that you cannot have the lightest of light without the darkest of dark. Right.
And exactly. So, book's fantastic, and as disturbing as it was, I was reading it at bedtime. I would read it before I go to sleep, and it never bothered me one bit.
Really?
Never.
Wow.
Never. But it would be easy. It would be easy to say that the movie and the book as a cultural phenomenon were the sort of beginnings and underpinnings of that idea that the Ouija board was something more than the spiritualist tool, that it had an occult leaning. Because spiritualism and the occult are sort of adjacent. If you're thinking about that mental Venn diagram, there might be some overlap, but they are not exactly the same thing.
Okay, well, it's probably worth putting a couple of definitions in place.
Okay.
Well, what I mean to say is you've got spiritualism, we've got a good sense of that as a movement of people talking to those who have gone beyond, right? Yeah. So I'm reaching out beyond through the veil, as they say, and I'm talking to so-and-so through this medium. When you say occult, that covers a lot of ground too.
Oh, it does, yeah. And,
so,
and it's a definitional thing.
I can say they're adjacent, but I could see the Venn diagram of overlap. Do you want to try and lay down what you're talking about?
I don't know that I was really prepared to do that, because there are other ways. There are other circles to that Venn diagram that may come in and overlay those things.
Sure.
Where I was gonna go first before we started to worry about that is that it turns out, because most people know that there is an actual case in Maryland.
A legal case?
No. An actual exorcism case that the book and the movie are based on.
Oh, right. Yes,
and the name the name that's typically associated now is Roland Doe, but I think he's dead, and somebody who had the name actually did reveal it. So, I think that's a different podcast episode. So I didn't really delve into all that. But in that case, the young man, the 12, 13-year-old boy, did in fact engage with a Ouija board early on. And there is some, it's hard to say it's a teaching or a doctrine, but the Catholic Church doesn't exactly warm to the idea of playing with a Ouija board as an official statement.
They, think what you will of the Catholic Church. They get called into some pretty dicey circumstances, right? If you've, so maybe it's speaking through experience. But they, there's no doubt that they have exorcists. They have there's codices and
two.
You've met two. Of course you
have. Of course I have.
Of course if you have.
Yeah, one of them was.
You feel better now?
One of them was. Everything's just fine.
So, John, you're looking a little upset. You want to get off the table, John?
I'm not on the table. I'm hovering over.
Maybe I shouldn't have picked up this board. Take it away.
Yeah. So one of them was my art and history teacher my freshman year at college, and the other one was a fill-in for Saturday afternoon mass at my parish for many years.
Fill-in?
Yeah, fill-in. Yeah, because nobody...
There was a hole in the schedule. We had a 5 o'clock mass.
Need
somebody to plug up that hole.
There's a priest shortage, in case you hadn't heard, and the priests have to do double duty. And he was no longer the exorcist for the Archdiocese of Baltimore, but every now and then he would bring up the fact that he had been the exorcist.
An exorcist or the exorcist?
Okay. I suspect strongly they don't need more than 2 at a time.
I think it depends on where you are.
I don't know.
It depends on where
even in official dogma, these things are rare. You're supposed to rule out every other possibility before you bring.
Well, to include the DSM-5,
yes,
right?
Yes,
but. We could also dig into research and anecdotal, well, I should say anecdotal stories, but stories or reports from people in the know that there's a lot of Venn diagram overlap there between the DSM and possession attachment. As a matter of fact, there are some reports that suggest that in light of not having any other course of action, psychiatrists or psychologists have just decided to buy in to the thinking of the person who's possessed and using their own thinking, right, have been able to relieve their symptoms.
Right.
That was not expressed very well, but you get the point, right?
And that's okay. As like I said, we'll probably circle
back. We'll have to dig in there because I would
episode,
and one that gets into mental health, right? And the idea, what is actually underpinning the mental health? How does it come about? How does one end up having a condition such as this? Is the board a conduit for it?
Right.
Can it be, and now we're getting into the hitchhiker effect. We're getting into sort of these hitchhiking residual energies and so forth. So
when I stare into the abyss and the abyss stares back.
And it spits in my eye.
Right. What else is coming through? What takes advantage of that opportunity? And
what's lurking in the darkness, right?
Right.
What's in the lightest of light? What's in the darkest of light?
And if you're not a full-on atheist, and I'm not, then you have to accept the possibility that something is in the dark looking back. That's one of the, like I said, the book is amazing about asking those kinds of questions. If you accept even the slightest bit of theology, then you have to accept a world that has some spiritual entities in it, and they have to exist across that spectrum of light and darkness. So you don't have to be full on church going Bible thumper every week to have that kind of feeling.
To come to a conclusion that there are activities that are going on that are really beyond human. Well, I mean, they're certainly within our capability, but man, what is driving that?
And if you
darkness,
and as I think we're going to find with a bunch of these stories, there is certainly that theory that if you are looking for something or trying to attract attention, you will get it. So if you're playing with this board, I mean, I think most of the time you're just basically getting that psychosomatic idiomotor response.
Yeah.
But
can I
as a skeptic completely discount the possibility because I'm not an atheist that something else is going to say, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, let's land one right squarely in science that most people can absorb. The FDA uses the placebo effect against new drugs.
Right.
And if you spend any time, I mean, it really only takes about a minute and a half to get the sense of the placebo effect, which is to say, if I give you a sugar pill and you believe it will work, right, whether you think you're being tricked by it or not, it has a positive effect. In other words, your thoughts play into the health that you experience, right? The resolution of symptoms can be as simple as thinking them away in the idea of the placebo effect. So, and to take that idea and translate it over, right? If I have an object and I believe that this object is a portal to contact, otherworldly beings, if I believe it, what does that do?
Yeah.
And what am I asking for?
And
what am I manifesting through my thoughts and my actions.
And let's reel it back in a little bit more. So
we're bringing it back. We're about to wrap things up here.
Okay.
Where do we find ourselves with this board?
I mean,
this witch board.
Yeah, the question becomes, if I am using it, if it can be used to contact something on the other side, what is it contacting? Now, the spiritualists would say, it's your dead relative who's going to be able to tell you where they left the checkbook, before they wandered off to the Civil War or whatever. But
where's the whiskey?
Yeah, where's the whiskey? Who knows? Why did you bury all the good silver when you left the house, Clem? Right. But is it Clem? Right. Or is it something that is on the other side that can access that same information and pretend to be Clem? And that is another theory that's floating around out there right now, is that you cannot trust what you're getting on the other side. And one of the situations that comes up with it, and this isn't a local thing, so I don't know how we're going to get back to an episode on it, but
well, that's when we open things up. Season 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah, there was
go beyond regional. I promise we're going to open it up.
It just left my head as soon as you opened your mouth. But there was an experiment where people said, well, we're gonna create a ghost, an entity, wholesale, fictionally. We have a dossier on who this fictional person was, and we're going to concentrate on them, and we're going to bring them into existence. And they spent
egregore.
They spent a whole year trying to see if they could conjure this thing into existence. There's a lot of rabbit holes you could go down, but eventually they did. And of course, the question was, well, wait a minute. If we know he's fictional, what's talking to us from the other side? Because they were getting these sort of organic answers back that they didn't expect to get. Like, they got effect.
This is not a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
this is a Swiss cheese.
Yeah, they got effect, and they were doing this out of, they were using all the tools of spiritualism and whatnot, but they really kind of figured they would either get nothing and be able to prove, because but they didn't know.
Right.
I mean, they're left with this sort of great question about what is on the other side giving us these effects, giving us these answers, giving us these
Is it
questions.
our creation,
right?
Or have we convinced ourselves that what we're getting is attributed to it?
Or is it something that's lying?
Is it something that's lying? The tricksters.
Yeah.
The tricksters. That's a common archetype as well.
Something that doesn't know that it's made up.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, I've got access to all that information, but doesn't realize.
Well, the same question then can be asked, and this is we'll start to wind this up. The same question can be asked: are we creating this idea with AI? Right? If I create an AI, and it starts to have thoughts and forms and feelings and memories and so forth, and it can reference all of them and start having an identity. And you start playing with it and formulate and helping it form its identity. So, what is it?
So to really blow your mind, what if we are living in a simulation? And the
where are we going to go next?
And the simulation is going to AI us back into that experiment was simply hacking that system in a different way than the creation of
So the Ouija board, is it a portal? John, you were a good chairman of the board. I really appreciate all the research you did, and I hope I didn't throw you off track too much.
No, that was fine. But remember, before we close the session, don't forget to say goodbye.
That's right. Okay, Pat, it's over, Pat. The relationship is over.
We are never ever getting back together.
That's right. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be like, you know what? I really miss Pat.
No, you're not.
You're right. I won't. No, we're going to close this session out. Where are we going next? Who knows? I mean, we've just opened so many. It is unknown. We're going to have a whole podcast dedicated to what we're going to talk about next. Maybe not. But we've set up this arbitrary wall of or challenge of having to tie it locally. So I'm sure we'll figure something out. There's plenty of strangeness, plenty of unknown things around Maryland and the region. And so join us next time when Mike and John go into the unknown. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Bye, Pat.